Hello, what is up mortals? It is Jace here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 6 of Deku the Shield Hero. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. Die! The loud war cry of the explosive bomber teen echoed throughout the field, followed closely by an explosion coming from his hand. Izuku, Raphtalia, and the rest of Class 1A watched, all dressed in tracksuits provided by Mr. Aizawa, as the ball he had been holding rocketed into the air at deadly speeds. As for the teacher himself, he kept his gaze focused on the device held in his hand. After making a beeping noise, he turned it around so that everyone could see Bakugo's score. Over 700 meters! It's important that all of you understand your maximum potential. As Mr. Aizawa spoke in his tired voice, he slowly eyed the 20 students in his class. In this version, however, Raphtalia took the place of Toru Hagakure. In order to do this, all of you will be participating in a series of physical exercises using your quirks. It's the most rational way to determine your max potential as heroes. It was then that Izuku noticed that Mr. Aizawa's bored look became more annoyed as the blue-haired teen raised his hand before speaking in a loud voice. But sir, won't we miss the opening ceremony and orientation? As students at the most prestigious hero school in the country, we should... I have just 3 years to get you all ready for the real world. As such, it would be irrational to waste such time on pointless ceremonies. However, if you would rather be at the entrance ceremony, just say the word and I'll have you transferred to general studies. That caused the blue-haired teen to stiffen as his face was filled with horror. Everyone watched him, shaking his head. No. His words half-formed as stuttered at a quick apology. Now, if there are no more interruptions, I'd like to set some ground rules for these tests. As I said, all of you will be able to use your quirks. However, you are not to use them in any deliberate way to interfere with your classmates. If you do, then I will mark your score for that exercise as a 0. Secondly, you all get one shot at each test. You should always be giving it your all, and I will not be accepting any excuses. Also, these are solo tests, so no helping each other out. These tests are meant to deem your overall potential after all. As he said that last part, Mr. Aizawa's gaze focused on both Izuku and Raphtalia for a moment. And finally, the person with the lowest score will be deemed as having no potential as a hero. As such, that student will be expelled. This caused an uproar with the students, many complaining loudly. One girl, the same one Izuku and Raphtalia had saved during the entrance exam, spoke about it being unfair. And to kick them out when they had just got there after working so hard, it bothered them. If this bothered Mr. Aizawa, his face didn't show it. Fair? Do you call a couple's car being thrown against a building, with them inside no less by a random villain, fair? What about people who lose their homes to an earthquake or a volcano? Is what happened to them fair as well? The world is full of unfairness. Some of you know that better than most. Having this caused both Izuku and Raphtalia to stiffen, their fists clenching. While Mr. Aizawa was not looking at them either directly, these two felt as if that last part was directed at them. Yes, they knew just how unfair the world could be. As heroes, it will be your duty to combat this world of unfairness head-on, to rise above it. So, prove to me that you being here isn't a mistake, that you didn't just have a lucky day during the entrance exams. Show me that you can go plus ultra. With that, Mr. Aizawa's tests began, starting with the 50-meter dash. As Mr. Aizawa called up the first two, Raphtalia and the girl who had spoken up earlier, named Ochaku Uraraka. The rest of the class moved off to the side to watch. With a hand on his chin, Izuku watched as Raphtalia stretched while Uraraka began touching her shoulders and feet for some reason. When the race began, Raphtalia took a swift and decisive lead before crossing the finish line a good 2 seconds before Uraraka. While that had been an impressive first test, it was nothing compared to what had happened next. The two who were called up next was a pink-skinned girl named Mina Ashido and Kachan. Once they were given the signal to start, Everyone watched in awe as Ashido began sliding towards the finish line, looking like she was skating while Kacchan used his explosive abilities to launch himself there. Once their times had been given, the two walked back to the group as two more students were called up while Izuku spared a glance down to his shield. This might be difficult. People with quirks that can boost their performance like Kacchan have an infinitely easier time, and will be able to score higher. Meanwhile, people like me and Raphtalia will have to rely mostly on our own physical training until we can figure out some way of using our quirks to help us. From there, the tests continued as the day went on, with Izuku watching the other members of Class 1A for inspiration, like how Aoyama used his navel laser to propel him across the track in the 50-meter dash, or how Mineta used the bouncing properties of his orbs to excel in the side-to-side lunge. Unfortunately, the green-haired boy couldn't come up with anything for most of the tests, and instead relied on the training he had done over the years. This, thankfully, kept him from placing last in any of the exams. This same went with Raphtalia, who impressively ranked 4th when it came to the grip strength test. Inspiration didn't hit him until the standing long jump. When it became his turn, an idea just appeared in his head as he stood at the starting point. Raising his shield, Izuku activated his airstrike shield and jumped onto it. Once he was in the air, the teen created a second shield before running and jumping onto his makeshift platform. But he didn't stop there, instead creating another shield as the first vanished behind him, which he then jumped over onto. Over and over this continued until he had secured the highest score far from the sandbox. As he jumped back to the ground, a few of the other students let out impressed cheers. Even the frog girl Asui gave him a thumbs up as well as a ribbit. Ida, the blue-haired boy, however, was not so impressed. Scowling, he turned to look at Mr. Aizawa, while making a chopping motion with his arm. Unacceptable! That was a clear violation of how to do the standing long jump! Mr. Aizawa, surely you will not allow such blatant cheating to stand! In return, Mr. Aizawa gave the teen a look that could have been out of annoyance or boredom. The point of this exam was to clear the sandbox. Once you're in the air, I don't care what you do as long as you don't touch the ground. And with that said, the matter was closed. Izuku was only able to use the airstrike shield once more during the ball toss, with the only rule being that he had to remain in the circle. Izuku used the airstrike shield and the second shield again as platforms as he jumped from one to another, gaining a greater distance off the ground, while still technically remaining in the circle. Because once he felt he was high enough, Izuku flung the ball as far as he could, gaining a score of 127 meters. Then after a few more tests, it was over. You should all have a good idea of where you placed. As he spoke in his usual tired tone, Mr. Aizawa pressed a button creating a large holographic screen to appear and display everyone's ranking. Upon seeing it, both Izuku's and Raphtalia's eyes darted towards the bottom of the list before relieved smiles appeared on their faces. Out of the 20 students, Izuku had come in 18th place, while Raphtalia was just below him at 19th. Yet, their relief quickly ended when the sobs of Mineta filled the air. Half the class turned to the gray-haired boy as he fell to his knees, rivers of tears running down his face that would have felt at home in the Midoriya residence. While most gave the boy pitiful looks, Raphtalia approached Mineta before bending down to give him a reassuring pat on the back. There. I'm sure it'll be all right. No, it won't. How am I supposed to pick up chicks now? Becoming a hero was my only chance to make it with the ladies. Pity quickly turned into disgust at the honest words of the gray-haired pervert. Even Raphtalia was struggling to keep from looking outwardly repulsed by this statement. By the way, the part about expelling the student who came in last place was a lie. It was a logical deception to ensure that you gave it your all. Mineta was instantly silenced while everyone looked at the creepy smile of their homeroom teacher that they were now getting. This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track and securing your privacy. In addition to providing safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services, like Disney+. If you are from the United States, you won't be able to watch any of the MCU or Sony Spider-Man movies. But by switching your location to Japan, you can access them whenever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase the 12-month subscription plan that costs $99.99 a year. This deal is for a limited time, and thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Today's lesson was really intense. Izuku nodded as he and Raphtalia walked down the hallways towards the exit. Both of them once more dressed in the school uniform. Both of them held in their hands a copy of the class syllabus, which they had picked up in the homeroom per Mr. Aizawa's orders. I know, right? Makes me wonder just what tomorrow's gonna be like. Oh, hey! Midnight is teaching modern art! She is? Quickly, Raphtalia checked her own syllabus before her smile widened. She is! It's been so long since I've seen her face to face. I know, right? Maybe I could show her some of my... Izuku's words were cut off at the thought of his craft, remembering the gift he had yet to give Raphtalia. Glancing around, he saw that the hallway was mostly empty. If he was going to give it to her, now would be the best time. So, after taking off his backpack, Izuku began to rummage around in it, while Raphtalia gave him a confused look. Then, just as his scarred hand touched the box which held it, a voice spoke up. I guess the rumors were true. The legendary shield has come to UA. Looking up, Izuku and Raphtalia saw 4 people in UA student uniforms standing near the exit. Each of them seemed to be posing in some sort of manner, as if they were showing off. There was a black-haired boy standing off to the side, just close enough for Izuku to tell that he was part of the group with a sword strapped to his waist. Close to him was another boy. This one was short blonde hair with green eyes. Strapped to the back was a bow. The last of the teenage boys in this group was also the tallest, with long blonde hair that was tied in the back and holding a spear in his hand. Clinging to him was a red-haired girl. The spear wielder took a step forward, and when he spoke, it was made clear that he had been the one who had spoken prior, as his tone held a bit of arrogance to it. I kind of feel sorry for you, pal. Guess it's just bad luck. What? Who are you? Right, he doesn't know. This came from the dark-haired teen, nodding slightly as he spoke. I am Renamaki, second-year student of UA, and the holder of the legendary sword. I'm also a second-year student, Itsuki Kawasumi, and I have the legendary bow. The name's Motoyasu Kirihara, third year, and in case it wasn't obvious, I have the legendary spear. Oh, and this here is my girlfriend, Malty Melremark. Oh, please, Motoyasu. When Malty spoke, Izuku could almost hear alarm bells going off in his head. There was something wrong with how she talked. The sweetness of her tone was just phony. However, those thoughts were put to the side when he saw the look Motoyasu was giving Raphtalia. It was so lecherous that it could rival Minetta's. Anyway, we were all a little surprised and taken aback when we heard that a 4th weapon user like us had just gotten into UA. Even more when we heard that it was the shield user. We just wanted to check it out and see for ourselves. Izuku's eyes widened at that. So he was the 4th weapon user here at the school? He had known that there were others, but he had never really thought he would have the chance to meet any of them. And to have 3 of them here at UA, at the same time as him? Yet, what did you mean when you said you were even more surprised when you heard it was the shield? The 4 gave each other a look as if having a silent conversation between themselves. Finally, the spear user let out a sigh. All right. If these guys won't tell you then, I will. He pointed a finger right at Izuku. The shield is the weakest of the weapons. In fact, it shouldn't even be counted as a weapon. It's more like armor. It's impressive that you managed to get into the hero course with defense alone. However, that alone won't get you far. Guess it was just a bad luck of the draw. When we all took a look at our entrance exams, we managed to get in on villain points alone, and by the time we all took our exams, we were able to take down the 0-pointer. It's doubtful that you'll ever be able to do that. Izuku stayed silent as he listened to the group. He has heard of these things from his old school, from people like Kanchan, others like him. But for some reason, their words felt they had more of an impact. Maybe it was because they had a weapon similar to his. Maybe it was because they were his upperclassmen, people who knew more about what they were talking about. You're wrong! Everyone was startled at Raphtalia speaking up, determination in her eyes. A hero is more than just their quirk or weapon. It's also about the type of person that they are. What they are willing to bear, willing to sacrifice in order to save others. Well said, young lady. The four standing at the doorway jumped upon hearing the voice, sweat appearing on their brows as they turned their heads in unison to look at the other way. Standing there was a small animal-like creature, standing on its hind legs wearing a suit, while looking like an interesting cross between a bear, mouse, and cat. The creature had white fur and scar on one of his eyes. Who are you? He's so cute! Look at that adorable suit someone put him in! Izuku's and Raphtalia's comments caused the animal to chuckle politely into one of its paws. You idiot! How could you not know who that is? It's all right, Mr. Kitahara. They wouldn't know as Mr. Aizawa tends to skip orientation to put his class through the ringer. So please, allow me to introduce myself as the school's principal, Nezu! Both Izuku and Raphtalia felt like their bodies would turn to stone at any moment due to embarrassment. Oh, and thank you for that compliment on my suit, Miss Raphtalia. I have to get them all tailor-made, and this one is brand new. Such a pity none of the staff here or even the longtime students noticed. The principal then turned to look at the four students by the exit. All of them looked rather nervous. It simply looks so marvelous on you, Mr. Nezu. Yes, thank you for that Miss-Mel remark. Now I hope that you all being here was simply out of curiosity about our school's newest weapon user. It would simply be dreadful if you came here to throw your weight around or to make a fellow student feel inferior. Now, how about you all head home? If you wish to use the school grounds for afternoon training, they will be available starting tomorrow. With that, the four left without another word. Yet, as they did, Izuku thought he saw Nezu giving Malty a careful look before turning towards the remaining teens. A smile appeared on the animal's face, sending shivers down both their spines. I also suggest that both of you head home right away and get some rest. Trust me, you'll need it for the first hero class. Thank you for all sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description. So feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description down below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.